And we're back. And now we're hitting the women of the DC universe.
Yeah.
The super and the wonders of
Yeah.
the DC universe.
Yeah. Normally it's polite to let ladies go first, but
No.
I mean these are two pretty stellar.
Yeah, they
issues.
are. That's why I put them there, because
Yeah.
I like Superman Action Comics. I liked New Superman. I've always been a Green Lantern fan.
Mhm.
These issues, these stories in these issues have been phenomenal.
Yeah.
And there's something to say when you can read a title and say, well, what's going to be about this title? Wow, you need to read this title.
Mhm.
And especially Superwoman
Oh yeah.
is really hitting it hard.
Yeah.
And Wonder Woman, with their year one and the lies alternating, really going strong. Wonder Woman #6, year one, part 3. I can't say enough good points about Wonder Woman #6, just because of what happens in it. First, we get the invisible jet landing on the beach.
Yeah.
It opens up, and there's Steve and there's Wonder Woman coming out. One thing I liked is while they were going, they're flying in, Wonder Woman still is learning the language.
Yeah. She's starting to parrot back some of the things Steve says.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, she has his name down pat pretty
Yes.
well. When she meets Etta Candy, she gets Etta.
Yes.
Etta.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's funny to see her learn that, and it's funny because it also parallels Wonder Woman #2 a lot.
Right.
Because in Wonder Woman #2, Steve and his crew land on Themyscira, and the Amazons are starting to examine everything they
Yes.
have. And in this, they're landing back in the U.S. And we see, Steve's superiors and his, the government's examining, every sword she has, every shield. They try to get a look at the invisible jet, but
Yes.
they said that like decomposed
Exactly.
right in front of them, which is pretty mind blowing. Like,
Mhm.
whoa, what did you make that out of?
Right.
And they even said like, Steve got his appendix back.
I thought that was something. It grew back.
Yeah.
He had taken out when he was a child.
And they said that he was healthier than he'd ever been in his
Right.
life. So, I mean, clearly the Amazons are pretty darn advanced
Yes.
to be able to regrow an
Simple
organ that,
but advanced.
yeah.
That
Yeah.
was something. And Wonder Woman is she trusts Steve, and then, like you said, she starts to trust Etta.
Yep.
But the government's not so trusting of her.
Yeah. I think they've seen enough metahumans come along that they don't exactly embrace every single one of them.
Yep.
Because they know they're not all going to be on the up and up. And she's trying very hard to be accepted by them.
Right.
Too, but there's also that language barrier. That, they bring in
Right.
one expert, Dr. Perez, who it's worth noting is based on classic Wonder Woman artist and writer George Perez. He even looks like him. And he speaks a few words she knows, but not in any
Right.
reasonable order until they bring in Dr. Barbara Ann Minerva.
I like that.
Who does understand her language, and she knows that it's not Greek, it's Afro-Asiatic,
yes.
as she calls it. And they do make a point in mentioning that Themyscira is not in the Mediterranean anymore. It's in the Black Sea. So it's somewhere between, Turkey and Russia and all those countries. Which is funny because in mythology, that's supposedly where Themyscira was.
Right.
Themyscira might have been somewhere in Turkey. So that sets a different tone for that, and it does make Barbara Ann Minerva be sort of the one who's going to help acclimate Wonder Woman to man's world.
Okay. Yes.
Kind of, reading the old '80s Wonder Woman comics when they reintroduced her back then, kind of makes her the replacement for Julia Capitelis, who was, I think she was like the receptionist at the Greek embassy in New York.
Okay.
And she's the one who first bonded with Wonder Woman because she knew about Themyscira. I mean, she knew about those legends as a kid, and she spoke the language. So she helped to acclimate her. It looks like Barbara Ann Minerva is going to be that now.
We see animals that are watching over Diana throughout this issue, and she has a visit in her cell by quite a few spirit animals, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
And in the next morning, she is talking to Barbara about the gods had visited her as animals.
And even Steve sees one of them.
Yes.
Because he sees one of them on the windowsill before he meets with Edda, and he says, "That's not a dove. What is that thing?
Exactly.
What is that doing here?" And because I think that might have been the owl for Athena, and it was cool because I've grown up with a lot of mythology and seeing that they picked animals that actually went with them.
Right.
I mean, like Athena is associated with owls. They had the peacock, at least not in Greek mythology, but in Hindu mythology, the god of love is usually associated with peacocks, and so they're what give Wonder Woman her powers.
Right.
So now she finally has her powers.
I thought that was really a great plot point because I didn't realize when she got off the island that maybe she is stronger and powerful, 6'2" in her bare feet. They said, but she was more or less just not mortal, but she was not up to where she is now.
Yeah.
And when she was talking about the gods gave me gifts, and she's talking with Barbara and Edda kind of don't know if they believe it or not. And then Wonder Woman just crunches the bars and puts them aside and like, they gave me gifts. I'm happy.
Yeah.
They're, I believe you now.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see why they waited.
Right.
Why weren't those given to her at the island?
Right.
Were those given to her because she was locked in the cell? I mean, to get her out. And it's also worth noting when they mention all the gods and goddesses who give her gifts, Ares isn't one of them.
Right.
And I mean, it's kind of hard to think that Ares would help them out, considering I think they've already mentioned that he's a known villain of the Amazons.
Right.
But, it's a pretty conspicuous absence, so I wonder if he's one of the driving forces behind how Steve ended up on Themyscira.
Yes. I also liked it that we see when she's getting her picture taken, that's where the first picture of Diana is taken. That's the shot that Steve carries in his wallet.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really enjoyed how those two guards were showing her how the camera worked. And then, they end up taking pictures with her, just to show her, I mean, because she seems pretty delighted at, these pictures. She's so happy in that mugshot, too. It's,
very much so.
Yeah.
I thought there's also a somber moment when Steve goes to the widow and, tells her what happened. And she says the baby knew. Somehow she sensed it. And she wants them to finish the mission. I thought that was poignant because a lot of times, unfortunately, when you're a soldier, you don't always come back.
Yep.
And that was kind of showing that there is some life and death consequences.
Yep.
But she was very supportive of the mission overall.
Yep. And Steve's superior had mentioned that the mission was a failure.
Yes.
So it'll be interesting to see what was the mission. I mean, was it to Themyscira? Was it just in that region and they somehow got off course and ended up there? It'll be interesting to see what that was.
What do you think, as we go on, of course we know that it's year one, the lies are alternating, and then they're also going to have, one of the issues coming up is going to be Barbara's issue of how she was Barbara and Cheetah. We get more backstory on her. What is your thoughts on Wonder Woman right now?
This is so, it's a great story. I mean, great stories, I should say, because there is this alternating aspect to it, and I'm really curious to see how does it all tie together. Where does point A meet point B?
Right.
There's clearly quite a bit in between, but I want to see how that all connects. It's a lot like Deathstroke. We're just getting it all in separate.
Right. And that formula works.
Yeah.
What they're doing in Wonder Woman works. One, the other. One, the other. Boom, every other week.
Yep.
You can't, it's almost like you're getting two different titles instead of putting it all in one, and it works. Great job, DC, with Wonder Woman. It is excellent. Superwoman number 2. Who Killed Superwoman, part 2. What comes next? And what comes next is Lana Lang is taking up the mantle of Superwoman.
Yeah, and she's not super comfortable with that.
No.
Because, I mean, she and Lois, New 52 Lois, went into, it sort of co-opted the Superwoman mantle. I mean, they were both going to be Superwoman. They were going to work in tandem. Lois looks like she's pretty dead. She looks quite dead.
Yeah.
Possibly dead. I mean, at least very dead to Lana. And Lana's having a lot of trouble trying to overcome what happened.
Yes.
because she's the insecure one of that duo.
Yes.
And now, I mean, she just watched Lois die or apparently die, or
The same way New
Who
52
knows?
Superman died.
yeah, and at the hands of essentially a female Bizarro. And
Yes.
we know that the woman who's pretending to be Mercy Graves is another female Bizarro.
Yes.
So it would have been a 2-on-2, and it's now 2-on-1 for her.
Yes. Whew.
And so she has to rely a lot on Steel, her
Mhm.
boyfriend, and
Yep.
as her support network.
Steele is a great character.
Mm-hmm.
Steele, his niece Natasha Irons, great characters. That another reason why this rebirth is working is you get to see more of the legacy characters, more of the modern characters coming in. Steele was always a great character, and I didn't realize that she was in a relationship with Steele.
Yeah,
Lana being. So I thought that it was working pretty
yeah,
well
it's
too.
probably a good anchor to solidify him
Yes.
into the Superman universe too.
Mhm.
I mean, he's a cool character. I really loved him, but I
Mhm.
always thought it was kind of hard to include,
Right.
the guy who was saved by Superman once before,
Yep.
and becomes a superhero. Now he has a pretty solid connection.
Mhm.
It sounds like he's not going anywhere.
No. No. Lex Luthor is going all the way around trying to figure out what's happening to all these attacks are on Luthor properties,
Mhm.
the Luthor building, Luthor General, da da da. There's a lot going on, and it is not coincidence. It is not coincidence because
Yeah.
Luthor ends up getting captured, and we find out that the person who orchestrated the attack on the Gestalt,
Mhm.
and
Who we've seen in a few frames
Yes.
before, noting that so there are two Superwomen.
Yep.
That pair of eyes that we saw
Yep.
before.
It
And
turns out to be his sister, Lena Luthor. Wow. Okay, who has a mother box and is wearing some type of Luthor-like green armor.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
that was.
also looks like she's in a wheelchair
Mhm.
too, possibly, because she mentions to Luthor while he's stuck in this little cage
Right.
box that it's must be hard for your legs
Yeah.
not to respond to your movements. And I
Mhm.
mean, she has these two female Bizarro-like characters.
Mhm.
She has the Kryptonite Man,
Right.
who is currently like in a computer or
Yep.
something, and he's he's sort of working for her. It's kind of unclear
Mhm.
what he'll be doing, but Lena makes her point clear that she's going to erase Lex off the map.
Yes.
I mean, to erase his legacy and replace it with hers.
Mhm.
And she says that eventually people aren't even going to remember the name Lex Luthor.
Right. The last time we saw Lena was in Justice League number 52 before the reboot, or if you want to call it a rebirth reboot.
Mm-hmm.
And she was in a coma, and he was going after any cure he could find, all the doctors. So she somehow got out of it.
Yeah.
Someone who is in pretty bad shape now is, by using the powers, is Lana. Nosebleed. She suffers from anxiety. John Henry and Natasha are trying to be a support group for her, and they go out when we have another crisis in Metropolis.
Yeah.
Atomic Skull has been broken out.
Yep, broken out of Stryker's Island because of the power outage.
Yes. She sits there for a while, but she takes some medicine and goes, and she's not in good health. It appears that they're alluding to something. Using these powers is detrimental to her health.
Yep, because they had shown Lois, New 52 Lois had nosebleeds from using some of her powers.
Yes.
And so it looks like that might be something
Mhm.
Lana's going to have to deal with now. But it seems like also another person with a lot of problems is the Atomic Skull,
Yes.
because he's out causing chaos in
Mhm.
Metropolis, and he's almost babbling about these experiments and this torture that's happening
Right.
at Stryker's Island, and,
Mhm.
and Steele is trying to get him to calm down. He
Mhm.
alludes they've gone at it numerous times,
Right.
and he doesn't know what Atomic Skull is talking about, but he mentions that that's after LexCorp
Mhm.
acquired Stryker's Island, or is at least providing services to Stryker's Island.
Yep.
That these inmates are now being abused and possibly experimented on and tortured, and I mean, that's a lot of superpowered villains.
Exactly.
So that'll be interesting to see
Mm-hmm.
what happens with that plot too.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things about Metropolis in general and the Superman titles is there's always a cast of characters you've always have your main characters and you have your backup auxiliary characters that can tell a good story. Maggie Sawyer is one of those characters that always fits into a supporting character.
Mm-hmm.
She interrogates or discusses stuff with Lana Lang, Superwoman, and they kind of get a vibe together of I feel comfortable with Lana,
Mm-hmm.
and so they kind of have an understanding.
Yeah, it's quite a rapport
Mhm.
going on. And Lana mentions
Right.
when she leaves, like, yay, I made a friend in a high place.
Right.
And it's also interesting because when they're talking, and Maggie isn't going, she's not going hard
Right.
on her. And Lana intentionally doesn't mention that
Hmm.
Lois, Superwoman, Super Lois,
Right.
hasn't been killed to Maggie.
Mhm.
Or she doesn't reveal that. She says, "Oh, she flew off to go fight the
Yep.
two female Bizarros," and it's interesting too because it sounds like Maggie might understand that she's lost
Mhm.
Lois because she conjures up an image of Batwoman,
Yeah.
and she mentions, I understand how hard it is to lose someone,
Hmm.
and that was an interesting tie-in for me because I wasn't even aware of any connection between
Right.
Kate Kane and
Mhm.
Maggie, but it'll be interesting to see what happens there. If they, I mean, presumably they know each other. That might just be a connection that I wasn't aware of. I
Mhm.
mean, I didn't keep up with every single title, but
Exactly.
and it would be an interesting understanding for them to have. If she kind of figures out that, hey, this one's all on her own.
Mhm.
She needs a bit more support from me and the
Right.
the Special Crimes Unit.
Yes. What 2 issues in Superwoman, 2 issues of great stories,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of plots that are everything's weaving in together.
Mm-hmm.
Really good, really good read.
Yeah. I'm really curious to see what the interaction between Lana and Lena Luthor's going
Right.
to be like. I mean,
Mhm.
Lex isn't exactly a lovable character.
No, he isn't.
He's not really someone you'd want to go and save.
Right.
I mean, he's someone you would go and save out of your duties,
Mhm.
not because he's a close personal friend.
Right, exactly.
And I mean, this is a woman who's clearly been, wronged by Luthor. I mean,
Mhm.
maybe in her own mind,
Yes.
but it'll be interesting to see what that relationship is like. Because so far, Lena Luthor has only mentioned that she needs to get more data on this Superwoman.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I doubt has any
Mhm.
good intentions behind it, but it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Mhm.
And I gotta mention too, so many LL names:
Yes.
Lois Lane, Lana Lang, Lex Luthor, Lena Luthor. This is
Right.
a tongue
And then,
twister.
especially in New Superman too, we got Lenny, the reporter.
Yeah, Lonnie Lan.
Yeah.
This is
What is with the L's?
yikes.
There's a lot to keep in.
This makes you have to enunciate a little bit more,
Oh, they're not
especially
very
when
good
you
at
have
that.
Lana and Lena.
Yes.
Ah,
Maybe
yikes.
maybe Lena will have a code name soon,
Yeah.
and we won't have to call her Lena anymore. We can call her something else,
Yeah.
and then it'll be easier
Yeah.
that way.
Who knows?
Well, that wraps up this episode of Comic Book Cove, and we are finding out in this episode that a lot of characters are starting to come out the forefront,
Mhm.
starting to become their own.
Yep.
Coming out of from background characters to forefront characters, and the background characters becoming even stronger.
Yeah, and definitely creating little universes for each individual title,
Yes.
and some of those are starting to interconnect
Yes,
too. Some a bit more than others.
exactly.
And that's really exciting to see.
And all around, really great titles to read. Well, if you have any thoughts about any of the titles we discussed, or want us to discuss, review any other titles, drop us a line at our Delve Into the Void page on YouTube and Facebook. So for Tom Morris, which is
And-
me,
And Josh Olderbaum, which is me.
yeah, We will see you in next episode of Comic Book Cove.